Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Alana here again. Welcome back to my channel, 3 Degrees of Love. It's early in the morning, and here in Toronto, it's about 5:22 in the morning, and I just woken up and just felt actually pretty inspired to do a video. I know it's actually been a while since I've actually posted one, and I actually been doing a lot of contemplating about just life and you know um, my channel and my vision and all of that kind of stuff. And you know what? I was just thinking. I realized that hmm, part of why you haven't seen a video from me in a while is because I have a lot of ideas and stuff, and I I think also too because I am a Virgo, and I am OCD and things like that. So I guess I have a lot of expectations sort of on my side of the way that I sort of wanted things to go, and sort of, sort of see this channel progressing and stuff like that. And I guess I also had a really, even just when it came down to filming and stuff, I realized that I had a very sort of one, I don't know if you want to call it a one way sort of expectation that I kind of put on myself onto how I was going to do my videos and stuff like that. And, you know, as I've, dive deeper into my spirituality and love of tarot and things like that, and my focus of course, as I said, in previous videos, mental health awareness is definitely my main focus. And then, sort of everything else sort of follows in with that. And, and of course, connecting spirituality is a big piece of that. With all of that said, I realized that I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, and you know what, I think we all do it. The the very regrettable sort of natural way of doing things, I guess, is, and comparing, people and ourselves and, our work, I guess, against others. And not that, I'm not seeing this as a competition. It really isn't. And a lot of the people that I watch here on YouTube are very inspiring. And but I guess in a way, I sort of, on myself, was, I guess, sort of putting a sort of expectation, a comparative sort of expectation on myself, I guess I realized. And that's not what it is. And that's not what I wanted to be about. So this is part of why decided I was going to, sort of jump on here the way that I am, just woken up. My hair probably is not the greatest, and I, don't have the cap that I would normally wear on, because I didn't comb my hair. Plus, I'm in my PGs, my PGs, my pajamas, PJs. I don't know where that came from. Sorry, I thought it was really weird. Yeah, and I just, but I felt inspired, and I guess, from waking up and, my dream, and, I'm constantly analyzing and stuff like that. And there were quite a few messages that sort of came up, and I realized that I think I'm also wanting to share, because it's not just messages that I think that, are for me, but I think just sort of on a global scale. And I, as I was saying again, sort of with the competition and things like that, but even in regards to, mental health and sort of how we interact with each other and people, and, and just sort of even in my own sort of relations with people and everyday life and friends and things like that. And one of the things that I think that, sort of the theme is of this video, in a sort of way, as I, my ramblings earlier was just sort of coming to, discovery, is that, you know, authenticity is something that is very important. It is also very near and dear to my heart, and wanting to be that way. And I think, too, that's also something, it's kind of a standard for me that I look for in other people as well. And, that draws me to people. And I guess one thing I realize that with all of us is that we, the fear, this huge fear of sort of being authentic, and, wow. As I'm talking, I'm also sort of coming to some realizations in my head at the same time. So please, I apologize if, at certain points I pause and whatever. That's sort of just, that's the internal clock sort of going on. But anyways, this fear of being authentic, and and it's an unfortunate thing. There's self-preservation. We all want to protect ourselves. We, especially those of us that have been hurt, and whether we've been hurt, once, whether we've been hurt on, it's a continuous thing. We carry that with us. And one of the things that I realize is that, and maybe I think a lot of us probably could even still be in denial of it, but the fear of being true to ourselves, the fear of being judged, the fear of, whether it be being laughed at or whatever, just putting yourself out there, is something that many of us, really hold and strong to, and are afraid of. And I have seen a lot, quite a few YouTubers out there, content creators, who aren't afraid of being themselves. Now, I think that a lot of them probably still are afraid of it, but they work very hard to try to be as true to themselves as they can be. And that is ultimately what I want to do here as well. And I think is very, very important for us to all do, in our own way, of course. We never want to be like anybody else. But, there are some people we look up to and, we aspire to be like, but in our own way, I would hope, right? And that's really what I'm about here. And, so, all right, so one of the things too that I, just thought of this morning, I'm actually holding my selfie stick here. And I didn't feel like, sending it all up. So this is what you're going to get. Sorry. One of the things too, when it comes to mental health and triggers and things like that, I think with our fear, a lot of us tend to also have these expectations of other people, and sort of wanting them to sort of pass a test, sort of, and to just know things. And it doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. And, at the end of the day, we are human, and some of us have, certain very special abilities, and sort of can, and heightened sensitivity to really be able to tap in and tune into certain things. But the majority of us are not there. And a lot of us, and even though I think a lot more of us are getting there, not everyone is. And having that expectation against other people, that they are just going to know, is a very, I guess, yeah, lack of a better word for it, judgmental sort of expectation, right? Um, just because we know does not mean that the other person is going to know. And one of the things too that I realized that it comes to being, when it comes to being authentic, is being able to be very clear, right? I think some of us think that, and some of the things that we say and some of the things we do, that we believe because it's in our head and because we know what our intent is, that we are being authentic and clear in what we're saying. When the reality is, because we are all different and because we interpret things differently, it does not, just because it's in our head and it's that way, does not necessarily mean that is how it's going to be received. And so we have to be very patiently mindful of that. And whenever we say and we do things with each other, we need to have that knowledge. And I realized in the last few days, even when, interacting with a very, good friend of mine who I'd taken a break from, a very sort of unfortunate, painful break, but one that I realized was necessary. And sort of reconnecting, more recently, there have been situations that, like the past, sort of that come up, but me having a sort of different sort of take on it, and realization and understanding. But it didn't come easy, let me tell you. Okay. And I think that just because now I have that understanding, it's still very important as the giver, and and not, please don't take it the wrong way, I'm not at all bashing my friend, but um that's one thing that I recognize, that even in my interactions with people and stuff like that, we have this sort of expectation, I guess, if you will, of how we expect the other person to behave, and just sort of know, right? And hey, sometimes the way we see things, it seems like clear as day, and if you were to talk to anybody else, they would probably see the same things too. But honestly, we all are different and we all interpret things very differently, and just because we see it does not mean that that other person is going to see it. And that is why we have to have the understanding, the love, the patience to be able to get our message across, and clearly. And one of the strengths that I've come to realize, that when it comes to dealing with people, and why I always say the 3 degrees of love, why that sort of, that title, that mantra sort of came to me, is there are different stages of love, right? There's, and as I said in the beginning of my very first video, is that self-love, and love of other people, romantic love, and then love of our environment, love of where we've come from, love of spirituality, love of, for everyone, for community, for, right? Those sort of 3 degrees. But at the same time, there's another trinity in there, right? That 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 the saying that I have, which is, living life, living to its fullest that you can, right? Um, listening to others, listening to yourself, and learning. That's what life is all about. It's all about learning, right? And to me, those are the same elements of love. So, that's sort of, wow, squirrel, sidetrack, whatever, but all still within the same thing, all sort of within the same message, And again, coming down to being authentic, coming down to just, being real and open and honest. And part of that honesty is, again, when it comes to, to the triggers and things of other people, that we may have ourselves, the trigger, whatever sort of trauma we've been through, right? That's the unfortunate actions of sometimes not only ourselves, but other people. And a lot of the time, it's usually from other people, right? But there's also that level of understanding that whatever is triggering us, and especially if it's a trigger that isn't from the person who is hurting you, right? It's now coming from a traumatic place. And you're externalizing that now onto other people who have nothing to do with the situation. Days later, years later, months, whatever later, right? Decades later. And it's still coming up as a trigger for you. That is something for you to explore. That is not the fault of the other person. And we can say and tell that person, hey, you know what you said there, what you did there, that's a trigger for me. And, can you try to be mindful of that? Because it's still really sensitive, and it's still something that, there was a fly there. Or something, piece of dust, I don't know. Anyways, squirrel. There is still that, that open, that honesty to say, you know what, this is a trigger for me. I realize that it is my sort of situation, but this is what's bothering me. And, if you can, try to be mindful of that, I would greatly appreciate it. But it's not their responsibility. It's really yours to work through. And I am realizing that about myself, and the things that sort of trigger me. And trying to dive deeper and figure out why that is. What is it about, a particular word or whatever that really has me going. Excuse me. What is it about? And how I can work through that, because if I allow that to come up and be, a trigger for me, and it sort of triggers very negative emotions that come out that can then be, hurtful to somebody else, and just an all-around bummer, and that's something that's going to keep happening every time until I deal with it. I got to deal with it, because if I don't, I'm potentially hurting other people. Especially if, the trigger comes up and they meant nothing by it, and it was something either innocently said, whatever. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. They didn't cause the pain. They didn't cause the hurt, and to make them feel like they did is very hurtful and unfortunate, right? And hurt people, but just because we hurt does not mean that we all have to hurt as a result of our own pain. You know, because again, that's a karmic cycle. That's another thing, where we just will keep hurting each other until we deal with our own issues, and we have to, in some sort of shape or form. But anyways, I just got on several different tangents, but that's okay. I hope that, whatever I'm saying that is making sense to, to everyone. And, we could all work at sort of building a stronger community and, a safer one for, for us all to live our authentic selves and, and just not be afraid. We ultimately, right, at the end of the day, there is good and there's bad, and there's good and bad in all of us. And, and how we sort of interact with each other, is still a work in progress. But, in the meantime, what we can do to make our own lives and the lives of others easier to navigate, let's do it. I'm for it. Right? And so part of that authenticity is me sort of, explaining my sort of revelations. You getting to see when I say the real me, I mean, just roll out of bed, just jump online, here I am, and not worrying about, the crusties in my eyes, although I'm still going to worry about that, so I'm sorry. I just can't come on here and have crusties in my eyes. But anyways, the fact that my hair is a mess, not really caring right now, and that would be something I would have worried about before, the fact that I don't have jewelry on, the fact that, I'm in my pajamas, all of those things sort of, has been something that, has sort of prevented me from ultimately doing what I want to do, because I feel like I have to be a certain way, or I want to be a certain way for me to feel comfortable. But you know what? The realization, the messages were there, and I felt it was important to get it out, and for me to have to worry about how I was going to do that and all of that stuff, I was thinking was just taking away from ultimately what I wanted to say and what I wanted to get out. And you know what, and I just took that leap, and I'm very, very glad now that I did. And I think you're gonna probably be seeing a lot more videos like this, and I'm actually finding it very liberating to be able to say that I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna put myself out there and not worry about my looks and what I care, about any of those things. Just not caring, because ultimately what I want to do, what my goal is more important than any of those frivolous little things, in my opinion. And I need to work on some more of those, those aspects that, I think about. And, yeah, so here I am. And, I hope that, this video, you were able to, understand what I'm saying and take whatever, whatever messages that you can take from it to apply for yourself. And what doesn't serve you, of course, you're more welcome to leave that. That is not an expectations that you have to follow. Take everything that you hear and you see, with a grain of salt, always, right? You do your own research, and just do that, and start the healing. Let's all start the healing. I think a lot of us are in pain, and and especially over the course of the last, year to 2 years now, there's been a lot going on. I mean, there's always been a lot going on, right? But to have so many things going on at the same time, you know, has been rough. And yeah, so as I said, with sort of looking at the direction of this channel, my main focus is mental health and sort of navigating, sort of everyday life and stuff like that. And that includes me sharing some of my struggles with you, and hoping that you would do the same with me, in the comments below, or even reaching out to my IG account, and hitting me up there if you want to. I even have my email, and even if you just want to just shoot the shit and maybe have someone who cares and just to listen to you and stuff like that, and that definitely was a fly. I'm that's what I'm here for, and that's what I want to be here for. And I sort of I want that, with all of you, and to build and develop this community. Did you see that so I love you, and those that have came before me, and those who are continue to inspire me. I want to thank you, and tell you how much I love you, and keep doing you, because it is awesome, and you're amazing. And yeah, there's, when it comes to, like I said, the sort of, one of my earlier videos, I mentioned just, karmic cycles and how things can, sort of the generational sort of curse that sort of keeps coming up because of lessons that, generationally, with our ancestors and stuff like that, some of us still haven't learned. Some of our generation's line still hasn't learned. And until you clue into that pattern and you see it for yourself and you consciously make a change, it's just going to continue. It is just going to continue. And I've seen that. I'm seeing that in my own family. And, and I'm doing my best to change that from my end. Putting a stop to it so that moving forward, for me, and on my generational line, it's done. I want it to be done. So, if it's in the cards for me, if it's, if that's God's will for me to, be able to have children and have a family of my own, I want those, that karmic cycle to end with me, if I can do that. And that is what I'm working very hard to try to do. And I hope that for you and your own family and on your own generational line, that you're going to do the work and you're going to do the same. That's the only way that we are able to move forward into a brighter future for all of us. So with that said, I guess just to sort of close things off, I do want to let you know that there will be more videos coming out, and I will have more, future videos, and it's going to be on various topics, but of course mental health being the focus, like I said, and spirituality and my love for tarot, and just movies, everything, anything, right? Really a safe space to just share and be authentic and and to sort of reflect on everyday living and, mental health and, and all the good things that can come around from being authentic and just being true to yourself and living and learning and navigating the effects of life on our health, mentally, physically, spiritually, and all of that stuff. So for now, I am going to sign off, and I am going to leave you with the thought that I love you, that you are loved, you are deserving of love, as am I, as we all are. And as we continue to navigate life, don't forget to listen, live, learn. And just love. That's it. All right, so till next time. Ciao. Take care of yourself. Take care of others. Au revoir.